Is this just the beginning of the tech bull run? We do not own any shares mentioned on the slides. Alright guys, by the time this video comes up, we are pretty close to the ending of the first half of 2023. It's been a wild ride, and I suspect the second half will also be equally as wild. And sometimes that can cause a little bit of uncertainty, especially with the volatility, news of war, interest rates and things like that. So if you feel like you don't really have a handle or you're not so sure what you should be doing with your money in the second half of 2023, then you need to hop on to our top investment strategies second half 2023 free training. Link is in the description and the comments below. Okay, so I think unless you're living under the rock, you will know that technology stocks is making somewhat of a comeback.
Yep.
I think from the bottom is probably the index maybe up at
Quite
least
a little bit
15-20%.
No, actually it's only like 1%.
Right. So that's very interesting because if you look at a lot of the names in the space like Nvidia, like Apple and all that, they've been doing very well. Now, unfortunately, the Malaysian one hasn't really caught up yet. However, there are some companies that have actually done better than the index by quite a bit, right? So we won't talk about them here today, but maybe we'll be focusing more on the US today.
Yes.
Classic example is S&P 500, and it's done well. But then if you take out like the top 100 that contributed to the returns, like the returns is way higher.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so there's actually a few reasons why the tech is back. So number one is the news on Nvidia's earnings beat. So they managed to exceed expectation on the analysts, and which is why now it is a $1 trillion company. And this is also followed by Apple's recent announcement on the Vision Pro.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hype around this augmented reality kind of like device. So that also boosted their share price, and you can see that now it's almost close to 3 trillion worth of market cap, which is very interesting. And then another reason why it is back is because the Fed finally paused interest rate.
This is the big one, right? I think this is the big one.
Yeah, this is the major contributor. So it's good. The reason why they paused rate also is because I believe inflation rate has been going down quite tremendously over the past few months. And you can see that over here, it is actually down from, I believe the high is around like 7 to 8%. So it's like almost like half already of where we are a few months ago. So that's very huge, and that's why we can actually manage to tone down a bit. But still bear in mind that the rate is still pretty high if you compare to like pre-pandemic years. Usually it's around 2 to 3%, but then
it's up actually. In fact, in the past, the Federal Reserve always won a 2% inflation target, which means they don't hit, right? So it's below that.
Yeah, maybe we can expect, I don't know whether inflation will continue to drop or maybe it will maintain around like 4%-ish. Yeah, but we shall see lah. Okay, and if you look at Malaysian's one, so this is the, I believe one of it is the inflation rate, then this is the interest rate. So the inflation rate, if you look at it, it is still pretty much at the high side a little bit as compared to the normalization rate that we usually have, which is around like also 2%-ish. But it's still not too far off from where we are lah. So but we shall see whether it will come down or not. And interest rate also, I believe the BNM did raise a little bit, about 0.5. Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yes. So, but even though they raised a little bit, right, it's actually back to the same rate as it was before in 2019. I mean, since like 2011. Yeah. So it's actually not really a surprise that rates are actually going back to normal. And also another good news is because there's a lot of FDI news coming in. So Malaysia right now, they managed to approve about 37.5 billion of foreign direct investment since January to March 2023. And recently in June, they actually managed to get about 14.1 billion ringgit from Texas Instrument. Yeah. So these are all big news for the tech industry just in the span of like a few months. Yeah.
That's right.
So that is what actually contributing to the tech to rebound. However, Kenanga Invest has been very neutral on this sector, even though they rebounded. The reason also why they say is because one, there's still like a inventory rationalization cycle that the tech is facing, and also there is an absence of the China-led recovery.
Yeah,
and,
so a big chunk of our earnings actually our tech company earnings actually come from China. And this is, I think, one of the big surprises over the past 6 months or a year, where if you wind back the clock, right, one of the reasons why people were very bullish on this year was, at least the bullish people this year, they were saying that because China will return. And actually that will affect the inflation rate also, because you have a demand, they call it a demand pull inflation rate. But what is weird is that, yes, there's been a recovery in the market. I think S&P is up 10%, 12%, something like that. But not because of China, but because of the Fed lowering rates and of course inflation going down. So that's very interesting to me.
Yes, exactly. And if you actually notice a few companies, for example, like if I'm not mistaken, Viz Dynamic and also Amylus, right? Both of these companies that have a lot of sales coming from China, but the China division is actually doing quite bad. So that's for now, but they kind of also hinted that they feel the next few quarters will be rationalizing, will be back to normal. So we shall see how. Okay, so this is just a final comment on this tech is back. So whether this is a bull trap, or do you think this is I don't know, what do you call it? Bear rally?
What I would say is that we are closer to a bull than we are to a bear, obviously, because we've experienced a bear for a long time. And if you actually look at I know here you only put the year-to-date gains, right, for Nvidia, Apple. They're only slightly above the previous all-time high. So Nvidia is really all-time high, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
right. I know. No, Tesla is not at their all-time high. Meta is not at their all-time high. A lot of these companies, right? Yes, they've been a bull recently, but if you really zoom out and see, right, they're still quite far behind where they were previously. And so this is a bit of a reminder for me on like Microsoft, for example, where they took 16 years from 1999 to 2015, 17 years. 2016, 1999 to high to 2016. They took them until 2016 to match the 1999 highs, which is quite crazy, right? So really hasn't gotten back, and I know a lot of people their cost is 2021 right, 2022. But yeah, that's been tagged. But I would say that we are probably closer to, if you use the standard tech / semiconductor manufacturing cycle of 2 to 3 years. Right now, I believe if you take your starting point at the beginning of January as the peak, right? Actually, we can go back here. So yeah, you can see the beginning of January 2022 is probably there, right? Maybe, Q4 2021. So if you extrapolate to today, where are we, right? We are already more than 18 months in. And typically a tech cycle lasts about 2 to 3 years. So that's why I mean by we are closer to a bull than a bear. But again, it's all about probabilities. We can't say for sure. Maybe this is an extended bear. Who knows?
Okay, so another comment we have is actually this have to do with inflation rate and interest.
Yeah, that's right.
So if let's say inflation starts to trickle up, there's no guarantee that interest rate will stay the same. Who knows, maybe the Fed or maybe even BNM will start to like increase the rates just to tame the inflation rate. But other than that, there's still quite a positive outlook. I mean, we're getting a lot of capital capex from all of these tech companies, especially coming from the US side one, and also in China. I believe that in China there is, I'm not sure whether this is rumor or what, they actually spend a lot of money on GPU. They have been buying.
They recently just ordered 1 billion worth of chips, which is I think 100,000 chips from Nvidia. And someone was telling me that ChatGPT only took 10,000 chips to run, or something along that line, much less than the 100,000 that was it TikTok ordered?
No, it was actually from our research team.
No. Was it TikTok who ordered the chips? ByteDance ordered, right? So I mean, actually, when we look at our market as a whole, we can attribute, the growth or the bull market or whatever to the Federal Reserve and things like that, but specifically with guys like Nvidia, and we actually have another AI company in our FIRL Pro portfolio, right? They are actually benefiting from this sudden AI boom out of nowhere, right? Where ChatGPT was launched, I think not even 6 months, right? And then it's just gone crazy, right? So it'll be very interesting to look out into this space. Unfortunately, Malaysia, we do not have as much exposure to GPUs, but we do have exposure to what we call ASIC, which is guys like Opstar and like that. So in AI, I don't want this to go too long, but there's GPU and ASIC, and if I had to bet, I think we are more focused on ASIC. So if there's a growth of ASIC chips, that's somewhere for you to look at lah. But guys, before we move on, if you're someone looking to level up their stock investing skills and you need a lot more guidance, we do have a one-on-one program called the Mentorship Program. If you're interested, you can apply it in the comment section or the description. Let's go on to Bittersweet.
Yes.
Sounds like some 2000s emo song.
Yeah.
Bitter sugar, right?
Yeah. So number one is basically the refiners. Right now, they're still incurring losses despite all of these initiative from the government that they're going to be introducing this clear refined sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but we shall see why they are still operating at a loss. Actually, partly also the reason why is because they are not really producing as much as they were producing for cost and the refined sugar, the existing products.
Yes.
So this is some of the stats that we can get from the Edge. Thanks, Edge. And so right now we know that the selling price per kilogram of the cost sugar is around 2 ringgit and 85 cents, but the cost to actually make is actually around 3 ringgit and 73 cents. The reason why is because there's a huge bump in raw sugar price that they imported to Malaysia. So it's about 2.5x up from where it was in 2019. So back then it's around 1,001. Now it's 2,006 100 ringgit in May 2023. Yeah, that's actually a very big boost. And if you don't know their cost structure, 81% of it actually comes from imported raw sugar. So obviously that actually resulted them to make a loss.
It's mainly Brazil, sugar canes in Brazil.
Yes, exactly. And then 9% is from natural gas. Also natural gas is on the up. So that's why they are incurring such high costs. This one, the freight charges and weak MI ringgit, that one cannot really change much. But then freight charges has been normalizing, so that is a good news. But this one cannot really control. And then so far for May 2023, MSM actually managed to exceed of the government's threshold on sugar company can sell that particular number of tons for cost and refined sugar. So they actually sold more. I think around more than 20% ish. Yeah, from the threshold.
Why is the threshold set there?
Oh, this one, I think it's the government's, it's like a ceiling for them to sell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, so I also didn't know until I read the news also. Okay. Yeah, so there's actually a threshold for MSM and the CSR sugar company. So, but the CSR didn't really sell as much as MSM. So
they lost less, right? In that sense.
I need to fact check with the numbers.
If they're losing money, right? The more you sell, the more you lose.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so but yeah, I also didn't know how the MSM managed to sell more than the threshold. That's actually very interesting. But one of the recent news that we have is that they managed to sell about 772 tons of fine sugar, which is the price that can be charged at the market rate. Yeah. So, but it's still if you compare between 772 tons versus 24,000 tons, that's still a very distinct difference, in contribution. But we shall see whether this number will start to increase. I believe so far the government didn't restrict the number of tons that they can actually distribute for fine sugar. But we shall see how much they can. If let's say this number actually increases, I think it will benefit MSM a lot. In terms of their profitability.
You mean the amount they can sell?
Yes, the amount they can sell.
Okay, so that means the capex is very big, because they need to sell the amount, a big amount, to cover their costs, But they're already losing on the gross profit, right?
Correct.
If you look at selling price versus cost.
But I'm not sure whether you got cross-check with the MSM's CFO. That I'm not sure whether can they use the same machines to produce this premium sugar.
Relatively, the technology doesn't change a lot. It's just you build a new one just because of wear and tear and things like that. Maybe a bit faster.
Got it. Okay, so that's
sugar it's a 200-300-year-old industry. It's not gonna change a lot.
That's actually the bad part for sugar. And one of the interesting stats that I actually managed to get it is that we are selling at way below our neighboring company. So you can see Philippines is like selling, I believe, like 3x more expensive than us. So so for the rakyat in Malaysia, you're actually getting a pretty good deal as compared to our neighboring countries. Okay, so this is just a final comment on it. It's basically who the government will cite. Right now, the government obviously wants to cite the consumer. That's why you can see that there's a ceiling price for it. But they also kind of trying to bring in initiative to help the producer, which is introducing the market rate to sell these premium sugar. But they also did mention that maybe if let's say there may be a time where the cost sugar, basically the existing sugar, they will start to charge at the market rate. But we shall see lah. If they did manage to, right, you're gonna see like a huge bump in sugar prices.
For me, it's like, why should sugar be so much lower than everybody, right? I think what you can do, obviously I'm not the government, but one option is to almost peg your sugar prices, right? So, obviously a lot of these countries are much more backward than Malaysia. Actually, everyone here is except Singapore. And nobody's asking you to do Philippine prices, but what if you just say, hey, let's always be maybe around Indonesia or less, right? I think that would be fair to the producers as well, because they also need to be profitable, right?
Yeah.
Now, I actually think that raising the sugar prices is like, if you look at all the things you need to subsidize for, let's say, the rakyat, it makes sense to subsidize oil, right? Because it's really an essential. But is sugar that essential? Now, I'll tell you why, right? I'll tell you some of the unintended consequences of having low sugar prices. Now, we know the more direct ones. So, for example, we know that, MSM and CSR that are struggling. I know people inside MSM and it's just not.
They're complaining.
They're just complaining and they don't understand why, because everything in our course here is higher than everyone here except maybe Singapore, Brunei. And yet we are the lowest, right?
Yeah.
Like, why? And then if you think about it, right, I ask you a question. If you order a kopi O and then you order a kopi O kosong, does the price change?
No.
No, right?
Yeah.
What does it tell you? It means it's just not big enough per drink or per whatever that that they bother to change.
Yep.
Right. And of course, maybe they're being greedy lah, to be fair. Right? So it doesn't affect the inflation that much. It only affects the perception.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Instead of paying $2.80 per kg, now you have to pay extra RM1. Wow, so big, 50% cost. But to the overall, to your lifestyle, it's not a lot. That's one. Now the second thing is this. I had a culture shock that day. I saw this picture online, and guys, if you know which picture I'm talking about, let me know. There's a certain state in Malaysia which I will not name. Let's just say they're on the East Coast. Okay, today if you go to around Klang Valley, right, you go to the typical mamak, you go to the typical economy rice store, Malay store, whatever. What are the things that you see on the table usually? So you got chopsticks and or maybe your fork and spoon, maybe?
Yep.
What other things do you see on the table that usually people put?
I don't see any salt or sugar. Do they put that?
So I mean, sometimes they put sometimes they put pepper.
Yep.
Sometimes they put soy sauce.
Yep.
Sometimes they put chili.
Yep.
Ginger. If you go chicken rice store, they put ginger. Whatever lah. There's a ketchup bottle of sugar, in this state that I will not name.
Oh.
It's quite common. So it's like a condiment. You take it, you just pour it like that.
Okay, now I can get why you say it's a culture shock.
It's a culture shock. It's huge, right? And it's in our same country. Now, this is the unintended consequence of having sugar prices so low. There's a rule in economics, right? They call it anything you tax, you get less of it.
Yeah.
anything you subsidize, you get more of it. So if you keep subsidizing something, then more people use it lah.
Yeah.
So now more people are using sugar. And guess what? We are the most obese country in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So honestly, raising the ceiling prices to, maybe closer to a Cambodia or an Indonesia, right? Not only will allow the producers to be afloat, 2, it will not affect inflation that much apart from perception. And 3, you will contribute, you will not solve the entire thing, but you will contribute to the diabetes or the obesity problem in Malaysia.
Yeah,
or the overweight problem. So there are a lot of benefits to raise the prices of sugar in my view. And it won't affect the Malaysians that negatively. If you do that for oil, I can understand. But sugar, I don't.
Yeah, that I actually 100% agree with
So
you
it's not
on
just
this.
a capitalist point of view of just making money for a producer. There's also a lot of other social aspects of this. And sugar, as we all know, especially those refined type, I'm not saying brown, I mean, I lump brown and all that in the same one. It is just, it is a net negative for humanity if we, especially the way we consume.
Yes, exactly.
Alright guys, enjoying the video so far? If the answer is yes, remember, like, comment, subscribe. And as far as comments go, if you don't like the video, do let us know as well. We always take all sorts of feedback as long as they're constructive.
And so that's about it for today's video. Tag is back and bitter sugar. But before you guys go, just want to share with you guys on MSM's recent bump in share price, right? So we don't know whether this is going to be an optimistic take or not. Why I say optimistic is because maybe we're going to be seeing some sort of change in ceiling price. I'm not too sure yet. It is still in the discussion between, the rakyats and and all the parliaments, whether they want to do that or not. But we shall see. But so far, the market's perception is that it's pretty positive that you'll start to see a change in ceiling price. And before you guys go, this is FIRL Pro's portfolio performance. So far, both the Telegram and the Pro portfolio has been doing very, very good.
I think June will be a bit better, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, we shall see. So for those who actually attend this big webinar, you will see the latest update that we are not going to share in the public.
This will happen on July
6th of July.
6th of July, yes.
Yes, exactly. So remember to sign up. The registration is free and we're only going to be reserving up to like 500 people into the webinar.
Yes.
So it's a very limited slot. Make sure to reserve your spot over there. The links will be in the description and comments. And if you want to know more about FIRL Pro, we have a free sample for you. The links also is in the description and comments. Now that's all for today's video. Hope you guys enjoy the entire video on TWIB series. Make sure to subscribe, like for more, and we shall see you in the next video.